I would, on my days off on tour, I'd like to go to bookstores and I'll get an Uber and call and go alone. I like to be alone. We're fucking surrounded by people constantly, right? So, so I go to bookstores or mom and pop record stores I love to frequent, or mom and pop music stores, and try and find something cool to do out there to get away from the circus that is Godsmack on tour. One time, Sully's like, what do you do? And a lot of times I'll just go to the mall if we're in Des Moines, Iowa or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll go to the mall, you know what I mean? And I am never recognized. It's just, I just am not. And so maybe it's because I look like this behind the drums. Or whatever it is, but I don't get recognized. And neither does Tony or Robbie. So it's a blessing because Sully's like, yo, dude, so I'm going to go to the mall with you. I want to go to the mall tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. And so Sully Erna comes to the mall with me. And within 5 minutes, I started to notice shadows. People are following us, right? And by the time we made it to FYE or whatever, we were doing a meet and greet. And I was like, yep, that's it. You're never coming to the mall with me again, dude.
So, you're starting to see our love for drummers on this show. This is 2020. My name is Cory Peza. I'm here with the cohorts in crime, as we're becoming.
The cohorts.
Yes, the cohorts in crime. Siobhán Cronin.
Hi.
And Benny Goodman.
Ahoy.
Ahoy. The enthusiasm, I feel like the person in the third introduction always has the enthusiasm of like Eeyore the donkey.
Exactly.
Winnie the Pooh.
Wow, that was a winning metaphor.
Yeah, I don't know where that
Eeyore,
came from.
literally like the saddest character that no one gives a flying fuck about. Like if you said Piglet, you can empathize with Piglet. Does anyone empathize with Eeyore? Isn't the whole premise of the character is that nobody empathizes with Eeyore because no one gives a flying fuck about a goddamn donkey?
That's how I feel about our energy level when we get introduced last. But the energy level of this episode is nothing like that.
But do you ever think that maybe because we're 2020 that they give us the drummers, like the management gives us drummers because that's like that's
keeps
the
them
level
busy,
we get?
keeps the drummers out of trouble?
I think we just relate to the drummers. That's really what it comes down to. Obviously, we hit it off well with them. And particularly this week with our special guest, Shannon Larkin of Godsmack. Some incredible stories to tell. He's such a cool guy. Anyone that's just listening has to tune into the video because he's got the vibiest space and all of his lava lamps and turtles. And
yeah, absolutely. And just a great guy to hang with. It definitely felt just like we're all chilling in his vibe room. Yeah.
I trip at that dude's place. You know that, first off, all the floors are fuzzy, so it's safe. Like, it's safe.
This is
we still never totally figured out what that meant.
Yeah, and then secondly, like, dude, like that room was made like to fucking swirl around your head.
We had such a good time with Shannon, though. Let's jump right into it. And this is part 1 of 2 with Shannon Larkin, Godsmack, and the Apocalypse Blues Revival.
The Apocalypse Blues Revival.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of 2020. I am here, Siobhán Cronin. Let me introduce myself first because I almost forgot, which I usually do. And I'm here with
You're not even smoking. What's your fucking excuse?
I know, but you know what? To be fair, I am drinking, and I did just get off a flight, so...
cheers.
Yeah, cheers, everyone.
It's gonna be one of those episodes.
One of those.
Tell. Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm Siobhán Cronin. I'm here with my good friends and cohorts, Benny Goodman.
What's going on, Siobhán?
Hey, and Cory Peza.
It's actually more important that you introduce us because everyone actually knows who you are.
Oh, no.
Well, you're already famous, but we'll get into that later. But we do have a guest.
Do you want to introduce him, Ben, since you're about to take over?
Well, I am from Boston. And even though he's not from Boston, according to the Wikipedias, he does represent maybe the biggest rock band to come out of Boston since Aerosmith. Is that accurate? It's pretty damn close to accurate. Maybe Nuno Betancourt's going to call me angry. But we have the one, the only, one of the most incredible drummers on the planet, but I don't want to relegate him to just being a drummer.
Because he's also a musician.
Woo! Shannon Larkin from Godsmack!
Woo! And for anyone who's just listening to the audio, you got to tune into the video because he's sitting in the most vibey room I've ever seen in my life.
It's good to be home. We've been home for quite a while now.
Yeah, as we all have, I guess. It's a weird year.
How is that for you? That's got to be an adjustment from the last several years of your life.
Yeah, it was crazy how it all worked out for us. Like 2018, it was, I think, October, we released the Legends Rise record and Bulletproof single, right? And then, it came out, it was doing well, the song at radio and all that. So in January, then we went to Europe where we're not as successful over there, but we have a cult following, we're kind of cultish over there. And so, but play smaller venues and stuff like that. And it's freezing cold, right? And the tour, we're out there and it was a break-even situation at best, And so, but we really believed in this new record. So we really wanted to attack Europe again. And it's been like 8 years since we've been to Europe, right? And so, but in the meantime, while you're over there, you're kind of in that touring bubble and so Bulletproof had gone #1 in America, I guess. And so
I guess.
You guess.
I love how he says he casually. I guess. I guess we went -- I guess I took a #1 7 minutes ago, Shannon.
Well, what I meant was because, we were you're out of it when you're in Europe, so you're not following.
Yeah.
You're not following what your single's doing. Anyway, we come back to it went #1, and so it was rad. In 2019, kicked the ground, and we released the second single, which also was doing really well radio. And then we had the second leg in like March, April of the European tour. So we went back after doing a small run here in America. We put out the second single, went back, and the same thing happened. We came back to America, and Legends had gone #1. And so
maybe you should go to Europe more often, because it seems to me like when you go to Europe, you get #1s, bro.
Yeah. And so then we went on tour, I think, with Hailstorm, and they did this killer tour in America. They're a great band.
Yeah, we toured with them too. They're a lot of fun.
Love touring with them, right? They're great to tour with. And so, and then put out another single that went #1.
Oh my gosh.
Crushing it.
And so we were looking at,
were you even in Europe when that happened, or does that just happen when Godsmack releases songs? They're just #1s.
No, we've never done that before. I mean, we've never had 2 in a row off one record, and then then the third one did it, and then we were still in America. We did one more run of Europe to make 3 times, and did Russia and all that. It was really cool. And then we came back, and we had a bunch of shows booked for 2020, man, with opening for Metallica and some festivals and all this exciting stuff, And then, of course, we know what happened next. Boom, pandemic, fucked everything up. And then, but the good news is, and then, by the way, we put Unforgettable, which was our 4th single, and it went #1.
Oh, yeah, hold on a second. Another aside from Shannon Larkin. By the way, I forgot to tell you, instead of just having 2 straight #1s, casually 3, it was actually the penultimate. The third one was the penultimate #1, and there was a 4th. I didn't remember about it because whatever, I'm in a trippy room from '69, but I had 4 singles, to my knowledge, off my record that were #1.
That's pretty crazy, even, to us, because we're just like y'all, we put our pants on the same way, except for when we put our pants on, we make #1 singles.
That's a good way to put your pants on.
Is that something that Paul Geary told you?
I did. That's a joke that I saw on some movie. Yeah, or no, it was a one of those,
Wasn't that the cowbell skit?
Yeah,
Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing: is it's only funny if you seem like you're joking, and we know that you're joking, but your band's so big that it's kind of not a joke, though. So it's like different layers of funny, because you could kind of come off as like narcissistic, like, oh, by the way, I put on my pants like everybody else. But in your case, you probably don't, because you're Shannon fucking Larkin and you have 4 #1 singles casually before COVID hits. And I know a little bit of the story because Paul called me all excited because he moved to Las Vegas. But do you want to illuminate, tell us what happened? Because you 2020. Yeah, we use that term. Like you get 2020, you fucking turned it around.
Crazy shit went down because of timing, and I noticed in life that it is a lot about time, mainly in life also, but mainly in this business, the music.
Well, you're
business.
A drummer. It's kind of important.
Yeah, well, I keep time, baby. That's what I'm good at. But I know that because, these. Oh, by the way, let me say the joke was when I first heard that it was something where the guy said, I put my pants on the same way as you do, except for when I put my pants on, I make gold records. That was the joke.
Oh, nice.
Christopher Walken. Now I hear the Walken in there.
So I used the 4-hit thing, but it was. I'll tell you this, man. It's been 18 years I've been in the band now. The band's been around for 21 years with Tommy before me and stuff, and even Sully, Tony, Robbie, we were all just, we didn't expect that shit. It's not like you can. So it was still as exciting as if, when we put out the Faces record and got our first number one or whatever, it's exciting, and it doesn't do anything for you except for, it makes you feel like, people get your music. And so, as musicians, that's what we want. People just get our music, and so it was a really cool thing is what I'm trying to say. And we're not narcissistic in any way. And we are. Sully, by the way, moved here.
That was a nice pivot there.
Last week.
Oh, wow.
Well, the pivot was because I was going to go and just say how, like, as humans and, we just are getting along better than we ever have in 20 years. And it's like we feel like we've gotten past some kind of, I don't know, pressure.
Some kind of monster.
Some kind of feeling of pressure to try and, do this or that or sell this or that. And, because, we're a band that's a successful band, and, we've never broken over the top stadiums and all this shit, but we have a fan base that we feel are like us, and I mean, we might look, I'm probably, the weirdo of the band or whatever, but we're pretty much blue collar dudes. You know what I mean? I just take a lot of mushrooms, so it makes me different.
Well, that's a funny thing that you say that, because we're friends with David Aberzees from Pearl Jam on this show, and we had like a big bonding sesh talking about how, like, I tripped on mushrooms for the first time in a long time this summer.
We had a whole episode on this.
And
what do you mean?
Yeah, it changed my fucking world again. And you know what? Now that I'm on the subject of David, I have to ask your opinion really quickly. I know this is a total stoner idea, but so I obviously, Shannon, you've sold a fuck ton of records. I think that's an actual legitimate number, a fuck ton of records with Godsmack. But there was a drummer before you. Now, David, we're friends with him. He played on Pearl Jam. Obviously, he was on Versus. He was on Vitology. He did all the 10 touring and did the B-sides. But he got snubbed at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What happens? And I'm not saying you'll ever leave the band, but like you say, you want to go do your own thing. They have another drummer come in, and it's time to induct Godsmack into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because you guys are going to be in. Like, it's going to happen. And they don't call your freaking name. Like, what's your opinion on this? If you're a pivotal member, which I consider you a pivotal member, because Godsmack changed my life when I saw you and Sully having at it on stage. That was the first time it, like, actually smacked me in the face for real. So, like, you to me are so important to the band, but, like, what happens? Like, what's your feeling on this? Because we've had a lot of conversation with David, because he's the whole reason I know that band.
Well, I mean, did they get Matt Cameron? He was in.
No, they didn't get Matt Cameron. So no, they got Matt Cameron, and they had Dave Cruzen, who was obviously in Candlebox and played on 10, but he was fired before the record was even released. So
is when they wasn't Cruzen that they put on the Hall of Fame, because
they put Cruzen and they put Cameron, but they didn't put David Aberzees, who arguably played on
Vitology. I mean,
and Versus.
But yeah, two of their best records.
And the 10 toured, so all those touring, like all the live stuff, yeah.
Hold on. Are you telling me, because I didn't hear anything about this, so you're telling me they put 2 drummers in the Hall of Fame for Pearl Jam, and Dave Cruzen got in?
Dave Cruzen got in over our boy, David Aberzees, who's our friend, and we think it's a whole fucking the worst thing, and it's killing me.
But what I'm saying is that's odd, because if Cruzen just played one record, it was a great record, of course.
And nothing live, ever.
That's odd. I don't understand that, no. And I don't see how Abruzzo couldn't go in. He would have went in, you think it would have been him and Cameron. You know what I mean?
Well, Versus was the biggest record of all time, fastest selling at that moment. So when Versus came out, that was his first record he did with them. It hit every single chart.
Abruzzo got famous, though, from the first record, because that's who I thought played the drums. I'm a drummer. He's in all the videos. He's famous for Pearl Jam's first record too, even though Dave Cruzan played it, So that's odd that he.
Well, that's why I wanted to ask you, because I figured that, dude, you're from that time period, and you're the second drummer. Well, I mean, technically, we all know Sully played drums in Godsmack at one point, but you are not the first drummer in Godsmack, but as far as I'm concerned, you're the pivotal drummer. And for me, if you got snubbed, let's say down the line, it's tantamount to what David went through. And I was just curious how you'd feel about it, because we talked to him about it. And that's part of my mushroom trip, was contemplating like, what would happen if I sold millions of gajillions of records with this band, and then they don't even think about me to give me the little star that said, hey, yo, we did this.
I think, I would say that in my case, I mean, I'm still with the band. So if Abruzzo was still in the band and he never would have left and Matt Cameron came in, then he would be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I was saying a fictitious, like, let's say you walk away because you make the money, you make the smack money, you say, smack this shit, Sully. You go do just a drum circle with your friends in your crazy room, which is fine, because you're making enough money, I'm sure. Like, we're just going to guess from the gazillion records, I think, quantifies the crazy lifestyle and taking shrooms and not giving a flying fuck.
It's quite the hypothetical you have
Ben,
going
you're
on here.
hijacking this conversation. By hijacking, I mean H-I-G-H, jacking.
All right.
So,
take my thought to a better place.
I tell you that I would be like, fuck the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame if they did that to me, and not because I care about the accolades from a committee anyway, but because I'm proud for my band shit. Like, if I'm in a band, it's like we're in a football team or something. You're proud to wear those colors, and I'd be like, why would they not let me in? If I was a Abruzzo, that would have pissed me off too, for sure, dude. I mean, he's probably, I don't know Dave, but I'm sure he's probably like, whatever, I don't know. I'd be like, fuck them. Just say it.
That's an appropriate response.
yes.
But I'm guessing that's not something you're going to have to worry about.
Well, I mean, also, it's like, I don't know. It's like tonight is the national championship in college football, right? And it's Alabama versus Ohio State. Well, because of COVID, Ohio State only got to play 6 games this year. They won all 6 easily, but there were other teams that fans felt should have got in the top 4, running for the playoff, the college football playoffs, rather than Ohio State, who won 6 games. You got a team over here. Wisconsin won 10 games or whatever, you know what I mean? And so, but then they whipped Clemson's ass, which kind of proved that they deserve to be in there. But my point is a committee, because there's so many teams in college, committee sat down and all said, we feel that this team should be in, and then they get in. And it's the same shit with the Grammys and the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Once you get to the level where you're nominated for a Grammy, then it goes to, a committee. Could be a committee of artists and record company dudes or whoever it is. It's a committee.
Well, I mean, Jethro Tull should have definitely won Best Metal Record over Metallica. I mean, it's clearly obvious.
Right. And I mean, that year that
Flute's so metal.
The year that Macklemore beat fucking Jay-Z and Kendrick Lamar and all Macklemore won it. It was just
who?
Right, exactly.
Well, it's the controversy. They need to stay relevant, so they got to stir the pot a bit. That helps.
It's like, it's like there should be a fucking a time limit. It's just like in the government, man. With the senators, they can't just have these endless terms, right? You got to get the old out and let the young in, and the world changes and moves on. We can't have a 78-year-old asshole that's been there for 50 years and done shit, right? Same thing in the Grammy and the hard.
Do you think Newt Gingrich knows how to make a PDF?
Now, there's definitely the shadowy figure vibe going on with a lot of those award shows and those committees, and like who is making those decisions and how much is calculated and how much is actually realistically based on merit. And the answer is probably very little.
I mean, look at even Billie Eilish, whatever. Who's a rad artist, and she's great. and that record's great. I haven't heard it, but I know it's great. But anyway, you could see her face, man, by the time they were giving her like her 4th or 5th or 10th one or whatever. And she's like, please don't let it be me, man. Yeah. Please give it to somebody else. That's great too. You know, it's like, yeah, they I don't know.
Fuck her, enjoy it while you can, because it ain't coming again. You know, let her take it, Billy. You know what? Take it. Every one of those. Be proud of it. Take your moment, because it all is just, you know, smoke and mirrors, dude. Like, you understand this. Like, you're making great music, and for the fact for anyone to recognize you, for someone to say like, oh, give it to someone else, or like, no, for me, it's like, it's someone, you're finally being appreciated. Sometimes people are wrongfully appreciated over others, but that said, like, you know what? Congratulations to her for the fact that they made a record in like her, brother's bedroom or something like that. That won best record.
Well, that was a lot of the sensation too, I'm sure. It was like the quintessential millennial Gen Z, like, you know.
It took a lot of marketing to make it look like they weren't trying, I think. It was one of those deals. Yeah. It was still mixed by a world-class mixing engineer.
Right, exactly.
And,
that's the stuff they don't talk about,
Timing and luck in this business are every bit as important as talent and songwriting. You know, like you can put the 4 best dudes, like the best singer, best drummer, best bass player, best guitar player in a room, and they might make a shit song, you know, because it's about luck of having chemistry, and chemistry is this real thing, right, that musicians have. That's why some bands can be amazing, but they don't have that thing that makes them sell records for whatever reason. So their chemistry is not correct, right? And it's not something that you can buy or sell. It's luck. So if you luck into, like, I don't know, like when, James Hetfield met Lars Ulrich, right? That was a stroke of luck, and they both hit the same, like, chemistry level. It's a vibe thing, you know, aura thing. And so when it happens, it's magic, and that's where the greats come from.
Well, so that's interesting that you bring that up, because I wanted to ask you, obviously you've had a lot of #1 hits, as you mentioned earlier, and you obviously must have a great chemistry with your band. And I'm curious about the writing process, because like, for example, the band that I play in, a lot of the writing is directed by the singer, you know, and there's a lot of stuff that's kind of outsourced, and it's...
Well, I feel like 2 billion streamed, Siobhán, so like maybe he's doing something right. Maybe we should listen to the singer.
But I think it's a totally different approach, and I like this. I'm just curious to hear about, you know, you coming in as the drummer, and, you know, what was the chemistry like, or what is the chemistry like in your band, and what is the writing process like? Because obviously there's something very special there.
I will tell you, and it's since I joined Faceless, the Faceless record was in 2000. I joined in 2003, and we did the Faceless record, and then the 4 record came out 4 years later, and every record subsequently has come out 4 years apart. And to the last one, we actually held off so that we could make it 4 years in between records, because we've always been a band that, you know, you don't see us like, it wasn't like an MTV band, you know, we're pretty faceless. That's what's the title of that. And it's because, you know, we fly under the radar, but when people hear, you know, a song, oh wow, that's Godsmack, like they know our song, Voodoo or whatever, or I Stand Alone or whatever song, they'll know that, but not the name of the band, you know, because we don't oversaturate. And Sully is really, I wouldn't even say it's his genius that makes it like that. It's just the way he operates and wants to make a different record every time. So, you know, and I'm sure whatever, people say, oh, every record sounds the same that they do or whatever. But, you know, if you look at the Faceless record, you know, we had David Bottrell produce it, who had done Tool, and we made a really metallic, militant sounding metal record. The Faceless record was metal sounding. And then 4 years later, after, you know, then we tour for 1.5 to 2 years on it. And then we have like a year to, you know, write and just, you know, get high and hang out, you know. And
that's a lot of getting high. Do you guys get high as a band, and like Sully says, yo man, I have this idea, and you're like, dude, you're just wicked high. This is the wrong weed.
It doesn't get high.
Well then, so you're the one getting high. So what does he do for all that year?
Well, no. Me and Tony smoke pot sometimes and all, but we use it. We do, man. We're pretty. It's a, you know, we're pros, and like I've been getting high since I was 13. You know what I mean? This has been part of my life, rock and roll and all. By the way, I haven't had a drink. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I haven't drank in
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Wow.
4 years though, you know, and I'm super happy. Even we toured the world. I've been to Russia and didn't even drink a shot of vodka, which was
That's hard to do. Yeah.
It was hard. I'm like, I'm over here. I can
Nostrovia.
I know what I'm like, you know, and whatever. That thing, the struggle's real and all, but I'm super happy and healthy and better than I've ever been. And the whole band is. And Sully still drinks. Tony hasn't drank, and shit, he quit a year before me. And so Robbie and Tony can still drink, and we can still, like, before the shows, man, you know, they can hold up their shots of vodka or whatever, and me and Tony hold up our Cokes, you know, or whatever we're drinking. I usually have water now. But anyway,
Snapple, the best stuff on earth.
I never get high, by the way. When I play drums, I don't get high and play drums. So it's an after. And
is that a bad thing though? Because I feel like drinking. Okay, well, I mean, I'm sure Jason Costa will argue you could drink and play drums because our good friend Jason from All That Remains is a fucking maniac that plays traditional grip and does like 220 blast beats on he drinks a half. I say Anna like he's like taking acid.
Yeah,
like drinking half a bottle of Crown Royal. I couldn't walk from room to room doing that. But if you gave me like 3 ounces of weed and had me like hang out with Be Real from Cypress Hill, like I'd be fine. I could play a whole show. But some other people, like I know, can drink, you know, a Dimebag. Well, Dimebag Darrell could do anything. But like there's other guys who, you know, they smoke a little bit and they're fucking scared of the microphone. But if they drink, they're all good.
Yeah. Well, you know, drinking is liquid courage. We all know that. You know what I mean? It does help, especially us band guys or whatever. It fucking helps. You know, when I don't care, you know, in my 10,000th show or whatever, I'm still going to have some butterflies in my stomach and a little bit of nervousness.
You might be opening for Metallica if you're not opening, being the main act yourself. You know what I mean? Like playing with the most legendary bands in the world. So like, is that I can't imagine that's lost on you when you hear 30, 40, 50,000 people screaming outside.
It never goes away. And that's why we do it. You know what I mean? Like, because, you know, once that, and it's one of those things.
I don't know. I'm not that good. I clean bathrooms.
Well,
talk.
Well, it's luck. It's not because you're not that good. It's because you didn't find the other 3 guys in your life, man. That's what I'd say, man. And listen, it's like, so anyway, the Shannon story. All right. So like I met Sully because I'm going to answer you about the songwriting process.
Sure. Yeah.
We'll get back around to that. So when I met Sully, it was 1986, maybe 87. I was in this band, Wrathchild America, right? And we were tearing up the clubs all over the East Coast, all this shit. It was the 80s. Metallica was coming. We were on the thrash front kind of thing, you know, Anthrax, all that. And so Sully had a band called Lex Luthor, and his band got to open up for my band Wrathchild down in Carolina, where he was at the time. And, you know, they played like a wicked good version of like, I don't know, Restless and Wild by Accept or some shit. And I was like, wow, you're rad. And so we hit it off. And so we hit it off with me and Sully, right? Like as drummers and exchanged numbers. And man, for the next 15 years, you know, like he called me when Joe Darko was in the band and Godsmack was starting to take Boston and the AAF was playing it. And man, fucking Newberry Comics is selling the shit out of it. They're literally charting with no record deal at this point, right? On a demo, which ended up being the first album we mastered. So I got the call from Sully then, dude, we got Universal, we got Atlantic, we got Epic, everybody's up our ass, you got to come join the band, you know? And I'm like, fuck, I just signed a deal with my punk band in LA, Amen, with Ross Robinson's label under Roadrunner, Virgin, all this shit. And so, I
remember that band, just so you know, like Ozfest, I think it was at 90, not 90, was it 99? It was with what, Mikey Doling from Soulfly and Snot.
Well, no, right? We had Sonny Mayo from Snot. And
Sonny from Snot. Sonny from Snot.
The bass player from Snot, too.
Was it Tumor?
Or, yeah. John Fonestad.
That my wires were crossed, but like I remember seeing you guys in 99.
It wasn't Ozfest, but you got the year correct. But it was the Tattoo the Earth Festival, which was short-lived.
With Mudvayne, right? With Mudvayne and Slayer, right?
Slipknot, Slayer, Mudvayne, Amen, and System of a Down.
Yeah, I remember
right?
it, dude. That was the most insane show. Well,
it
that's
was
when
insane, man.
Slipknot
And all the time,
Sorry.
they shot out of the cannon and took over the world after that tour, man. And they took us Amen around the world. That's how I got my nickname Apocalypse. I'll tell you about that later. But so anyway, long story short, 15 years pass or not even. And, you know, he's asking me to join this band, Godsmack. And I'm saying, well, I can't. I got to do Amen. And so it was almost, so Tommy, you know, came in on the first record, you know, and did those first 2 records. That took 4 years for both those to come out. So now it's 2000, it's 98, 99, 2001. So now it's 2002, right? And the Awake record, and then, you know, 9/11 happened, all this bullshit. And Sully called me and said, you know, we're going to get rid of Tommy. And I was like, you know, what are you saying to me? I just quit Amen 2 weeks before he called me. 2 weeks before he called me, I was my wife's pregnant. And, you know, I'm like, I can't be in a punk band, you know, at 30.
Serendipity, dude.
So
Wow.
fuck, it was meant to be, right? And so I'm like, yes. And anyway, so right away, now this is back to the songwriting thing. You know, Sully's a man that likes to write his own lyrics because, and if you look at all the records, I mean, on the first record, the only song that wasn't really about him and his emotions, feelings was Voodoo, which was a fantasy song about Serpent and Rainbow, the movie, actually. That's where he came up with that. But every other song was about this pain that he'd gone through with the breakups and keep away from me, bitch, and all that shit. And the Awake record carried that on, and every record, now that I say it, listen to our records, and every song is pretty much one of his emotions coming out. So he wants to paint the picture. He's the visionary of the band. He handpicked each one of us, and he writes the lyrics. And I'm a lyricist, and I have been since a little kid. It's something that I just love to do, right? And I'm passionate about it. So, but I was like, fuck. I mean, by the time Sully asked me to join, it was like, I felt like the luckiest guy in the world because I'd already kind of written off my dream of ever, you know, I'd played with Black Sabbath and I'd candleboxed and done some shit. So I felt like, you know, I'm good. You know, I got my little piece of the pie, but I certainly never got fame or fortune. I was still making, you know, in Amen, I'd make 35 grand a year or whatever with a kid at home. It's crazy. Yeah. Touring the world. Anyway, so right away in songwriting, the lyrics go on. And that was kind of, you know, at the time I wasn't really, my music that I was writing was way not Godsmack, right? I just always have written different music. And so I knew, but anyway, as it turned out, so the Faceless record, he just threw us little bones of publishing, whatever the percentage was, but he wrote the lion's shit, 90% of that record. Tony Rombola wrote Serenity, which was really the only song credit he got on that record, even though we all, like I said, Sully threw us all a little bone because we all contribute in the room, right? Mm-hmm. But 4 years later, after touring and the writing of the next record, Tony and I had moved to Florida then, from California. I was still living in California. The band was in Boston, you know, and all of a sudden I had to fly all the time. I spent so much time on a jet that I just moved to the East Coast, but I didn't want to move to Boston because I was sick of the cold. I grew out of the cold when I went to California.
Don't blame you, man.
I'm a Florida girl, too.
Fuck that shit.
All right, so I moved to Florida, and Sully doesn't like it and moves back to Boston. And so, but then a year later, Tony Rombola moves to Florida, to Cape Coral, my town. And so now we have 2 of us here, and Sully and Robbie are up north. And so Tony and I, you know, kind of developed this writing thing, and because Sully's like, write some songs and we'll get together, you know. So he would write songs up there, and Tony and I would be writing songs down here in Florida, right? And so we wrote, and this was by the way after the 4 record. The 4 record, I had to go to Boston. We all wrote the record in Boston up there, and that's where Tony and I kind of started to bond as writers. Because on the Faceless thing, he had all the material, man, and it was Bottrell was in there, and it was just, he wrote everything on that record. That's all Sully, except for, like I said, Serenity. Second record, Tony and I got 4 songs on it, including Speak, the #1 single, and Living in Sin, or the first song on the record, which was the heaviest song, I think. Anyway, so he gave us that and let us become, you know, integrated kind of in the songwriting to where on the next 3 records, we all wrote, and, you know, 50% say 40 to 50% of the music for Godsmack, Tony and I, right? And we come up with these, cool songs, bitch, whatever, all these songs. And so after the 1,000 horsepower happened, Sully comes to us and, and he's, like I said, he's our fearless leader. Look, he's a visionary dude, man. He's had a life. And so, and we follow him, and I can't say enough great things about him. I'm not just talking shit. He's my friend way longer than we've done so much crazy shit together. Like before I was even in his band, you wouldn't believe the stories. I can't even say them.
Try us.
Yeah. You got to test him out on the show. We love stories.
It was the 80s, and so I can't.
What happened in the 80s stays in the 80s because there was no social media.
Groupie wasn't a bad word yet, and there was cocaine. So it was a different time. You know what I mean? And so I don't even talk, but I'm just saying how close him and I've always been in all many ways. And so come time to make the Legends record, and we had just finished touring, so we knew we had probably 2.5 years to make and record a great record, which is a lot of time, and we understand that we're blessed to have that kind of time. Each record, that's why every 4 years we don't put out something we don't feel is going to be great, and and we're lucky again that to have that blessing and opportunity to be able to take our time, and no labels breathe down our neck, and it's just our own thing. So Sully comes to us and says, I want to write with other writers. And we're like, oh shit, okay. Like I said, Tony and I, if I'm honest when I say, we were like hurt at first, you know what I mean? But if you look historically and you talk about Boston bands, the biggest band ever out of Boston, Aerosmith, they went through, when they had their rough times, they came back and they got Bruce Fairborn and he helped them write, and the dude, they got all kind of writers, and next thing you know, Aerosmith's sound kind of changed, and they wrote like, Dude Looks Like a Lady and Love in the Elevator.
Well, you got Desmond Child walking in, and he's like, remember that song Living on a Prayer? We're just gonna take you and make you that, and then did da 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 later. And I know that our drummer Paul Lorenzo, who we talk about a lot, he's a generation beyond us. He doesn't want me to tell his age because he looks like a vampire, but he's one of those guys that can be like, yo, yeah, dude, I stopped listening to Megadeth after So Far So Good, So What? Oh yeah, no, Metallica after literally Ride the Lightning, forget it. It's like Aerosmith rocks, that was when they started getting Toys in the Attic. It's all right. Yeah. So it is
a big shift though if you go from a band that was one writer and then the tight knit group of writers, and then you are bringing in outsiders.
Well, the point is that you have weird. Van Hagar and Van Halen, and then with Aerosmith, you have guys that liked the Aerosmith that wrote Rocks and the stuff that Steven Tyler is not necessarily doing all that produced stuff, and then you have Pump, Permanent Vacation, and Get a Grip. You know what I mean? Which is a totally different band to a lot of people, but hyper successful.
How was that adjustment for you? How long did it take for you to kind of get into that mindset of actually bringing in that outside opinion?
Well, me and Tony just fucked off to Florida, and then Robbie, our bass player, bought a house up in North Florida, not about probably 5 hours from us, but moved to Florida too. And so then Sully, our studio, by the way, is in Boston and our headquarters and stuff. And so Sully was kind of left alone up there to write with other people. And, at first it's like, you feel like he's cheating on us or something, but he was so open about it. And he's like, look, I feel like, like in the 4 record after Faceless was this militant metal record. And 4 years later, we made the 4 record. He had a theme every time. So he's like, dudes, let's try and make a blues or rock record. We even got Andy Johns, who worked with the Stones, and fucking that dude, by the way, boy, talk about stories, he did the Exile on Main Street. He was at the mansion in France with the Stones, engineering that shit.
Yeah.
Told me stories about being on 3 hits of fucking acid in bed with Keith Moon and 3 chicks. Crazy shit, right? That was a 7.
I actually did 3 hits of acid and thought I was in bed with Keith Moon and 3 chicks too, but I don't think they were there.
Keywords thought.
Yeah, they weren't really there. But
They were just my pillows. There's way too many pillows in my bed, just for reference.
So we go to the tried to make a bluesier rock record or whatever with the 4 record, turned into this dark, weird record for us, I feel. And then I liked it, but it was dark and weird. And then the 5th record was Oracle, which was again. Then we get Dave Fortman in to produce, who had done Slipknot and Evanescence, huge Evanescence records, the first 2, and Mudvayne, And so the Oracle, I think, allowed Tony more expression as a lead player, which he hadn't really played much lead on those first 3-4 records at all. Little 4-bar leads like Keep Away, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, so the Oracle record I thought was a good heavy, back to the kind of the heavy part of Godsmack record. And we all wrote, and then the next record was 1,000 Horsepower, which is still my favorite record we made. And we were like, I felt like firing in all cylinders. And then there it is. It still had a number 1 hit. But it didn't resonate with the fans like we thought it would. We thought, wow, man, we did something really high energy and more, attitude on it and shit.
Sure.
We thought, so maybe that made Sully, take a step back and go, wow, and you know what? The band might get mad at me for saying this, but he's the youngest one, and he was the last guy to turn 50. And our manager hates when I say this, but I'm 53, and so we've been doing this shit.
Is that a problem? That's so weird.
We've been doing this fucking shit forever, man. And when he turned 50, now we're all over 50. I think he felt, we need to mature our music. And also, I was I stroked out in my late 40s from all the fucking headbanging and shit. And literally had a stroke and was in the hospital.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I did. And my doctors were like, you can't bang your head anymore like that and whatever,
You rocked way too hard, man.
I was trying to, put sunglasses on stage because I just forget and start banging my head.
Yeah, it's like muscle memory, of course. Yeah.
I still do, by the way. And it turned out that I got a heart surgery. I had a hole in my heart. and that was allowing these blood clots to slip through. And then when a blood clot slips through and goes to your brain, typically it goes through the 4 parts of your heart and it just dissipates the blood clot so that it doesn't go and hit your brain. If the blood clot gets through and hits your brain, it makes a stroke. Pow! So, I was in my kitchen, bang! It's like, I thought it was home intrusion or something, all of a sudden I felt like hit. Well, it was a stroke, man. So anyway, I dealt with all that shit. And by the way, 2 weeks after that stroke, I went and played a festival in Texas. We played Godsmack.
Oh my God.
Headlined this festival. But that was some crazy times, But we went through all that shit, and the whole time you got to realize too, we are real friends, and it's not like. So the whole time he's been so. Anyway, my point is when he came to us. With this idea of writing with other dudes and having a more mature sound, we all just said, do it, dude. We got your back as long as we like the songs. If the songs are shit, we're not going to sit here and say, yeah, I'll play these songs.
Mm-hmm.
If we think they're shit, there's going to be trouble in paradise, buddy. And he's like, I totally get it. And he even, when he played us Bulletproof, which was the first song he played us that he had written with someone else in 20 years as Godsmack. He makes solo work. He writes whoever he wants. But it's always been the 4 of us after, from Faceless on 18 years. And he sat down and he said he was nervous, playing us this song because it had a synth part. It has a synth part in the verse, wop, 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 And so he's like, man, they're going to think it's, I almost said an politically incorrect thing, but he thought we'd think it was weak.
Yeah.
And so, but as soon as he got to the verse, when the verse comes in and he starts singing, man, it's his voice. And his voice, he's one of those dudes. That's why he's famous. His voice sounds like, if you don't know one song of ours, and if you know one song of ours and then you hear a song come on that's different, you've never heard, and he starts singing, then you go, oh, Godsmack, because it sounds like him, And so anyway, we heard Bulletproof Verse happen, and then the break sped at boom into the chorus, and he did the big. And again, that was a different melody for him. And from his last solo record, he had learned to play piano years ago. But he's one of those musicians, by the way, dude, that it makes me fucking envious, because he can pick up. Like if he wants to play sax, he'll pick it up, and a year later he's like fucking Clarence Clemens or something. Yeah, like it took him maybe 5-6 years, and the motherfucker plays like Elton John. So like he wrote Scars right there, whatever. But anyway, it also made him start singing in different keys. So now we didn't even know, like he's always been a strong baritone voice, in the past. And, as he started using his upper range, he has a really nice voice up there. And we were like, that sounds really good, dude. What can we say? Sounds like Robbie. I've never heard Robbie's like, sounds like a fucking hit to me, and it really is. And, so, and then by the way, those demos, like he went off and wrote with other dudes. And then he comes to us with these demos, it's drum machines, And so I had at least some freedom. Then he integrated the band. And so we kind of learned these demos and then start jamming in a room, and it became what it sounded like in the end, which was, way different than what the demo sounded like, and way more like the band Godsmack.
I was going to ask you that. So you did get like some opportunity for creative input, because I'd imagine, for me, that's one thing as a violinist, for example, I'm always kind of a hired gun, right? I get very little input on the like writing process when I'm playing with bands. So that's something that would probably drive me crazy if I didn't get like some sort of like creative outlet in songs that we're doing. But it sounds like you did get to kind of make it your own after that, right?
I mean, for the most part, I the beats, the thing about me is I'm a drummer, I'm beat oriented, man, and so the beats were written. So, if I'm doing a 16th note on the hi-hats or whatever instead of the 8th note, that's me putting my little vibe in, or a splash on the off one, which is, all right, there's a little Larkin in there or whatever. But for the most part, man, it was done, and all the beats were there, the big ass beats. I will say though, I'm just talking about the big four, like we call them, the singles, because then the rest of the record, he wrote those songs himself, but we had a lot more, we could integrate our musicianship in. So because he'll be like, give me a tom groove or something. So I get to actually, boom, I'll start a tom groove. It came from me, right there. And he'll be all, move to the ride cymbal or whatever, He's like the director, and he has these, like, he's like I am in the Apocalypse Blues Revival. It's like, you get these songs in your head, and you can see them and hear them in their completion. Like I hear the songs I write with the sax part or the 3-part harmony backup chick vocalists or whatever. I'm hearing this shit as a demo of drums, bass, and vocals. So anyway, he has the vision of the songs complete. So, when you're trying to sell it to your band, you gotta trust your guy.
Right.
Like, like I always tell Rombola, because I don't know if y'all have even heard the Apocalypse, but we do some weird shit, some crazy trippy music, right? It's trippy. Like there'll be parts specifically written. Like you guys, Boston Shirt, tell me your name.
It's Benny Goodman.
Yes.
Yeah, man. I am not a king, nor do I swing, but I do, in fact, Shannon, sing.
That's rad, dude. Benny Goodman.
And I will tell you, when Paul, your manager, got me on the guest list for the Hollywood Vampires, Joe Perry had called him and said, "How did I see Benny Goodman on the guest list?" And I'm like, wait a minute, Joe Perry said my name? And then I said the exact same joke to him that I just said to you, and he laughed the first 3 times he met me.
Nice.
Every single time I made him laugh at that same joke like it was the first time, and it was great.
That's great, man. Because
Joe Perry's the man.
When you're meeting a rock star, like a real one like Joe Perry, you don't want to say some stupid shit.
Are you not a real one, man? Are we talking
You're
back like taking
definitely a real rock
shrooms?
star.
You're a real Like, in my world, man, you're a real rock star. In fact, you're one of the greatest drummers that I've ever seen in the modern day. Like, it truly. In fact, and we can get into it more. The Professor, who has every drummer who now has like a hard-on somewhere, is like, oh my God, you talked about Rush. But Neil Peart, while he was here amongst us living people, like, acknowledged Godsmack and the awesomeness of what you personally do, which to me, and he was also a lyricist as a drummer, which to me is, if I didn't believe in you, okay, people in Boston, Sully can tell you this, I'm sure you know, we trust our guys, just like you said, we trust our guys. Neil Peart is a guy that, like us in Boston, if you play drums and Neil goes, yeah, it's good, like, how the fuck do you say it's not good when the Professor is in class saying the Godsmackers are good? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man, and that was some shit. You know, that was amazing when Neil Peart even took the time to whatever. That was, you know, rest in peace, the man, the myth. I tell you what, I met him, and Sully and I went and got, you know, the opportunity to go backstage and meet Neil Peart in his dressing room alone with Neil, and it was just for 10 minutes. But it was like I was standing there looking at a unicorn. He was a mythical creature that I couldn't believe was actually real in front of me and standing there actually speaking. And it was just, and so when I say things like a real rock star like Neil Peart or Joe Perry, you know what I mean? And I'm not trying to be like belittle what Godsmack's achieved and what I've done and what I am in this world, but I think that us, when we are dudes in bands that are successful, then we should still be fans, you know what I mean? And so I never feel like, it's fucking weird when I'm in a grocery store and somebody goes, hey, are you Shannon from Godsmack? And I'm embarrassed a little. I'm like, oh, I am that dude, you know what I mean? But it's not like I feel like some rock star when I walk around. It's weird. I've always felt like a psychedelic biker, you know? No, I like
who happens to play drums.
Oh, the hell, dangerous. You know what I mean?
Well, that's got to be a really shitty thing if you are on psychedelics and you're walking outside, because I don't want anyone to talk to me. And I'm walking down the street like, don't talk to me. And then someone's like, are you that guy? Like, yeah, man, what about it? And I'd fucking start running and it'd flip me the fuck out, dude. Like, that's got to be like a liability.
It's a weird thing, I tell you. That's why I love Godsmack and how we are faceless kind of. We're under the radar. I tell you what, you know, Sully isn't, and he has the curse of the singer. And so I'll tell you a quick, interesting story. I would, you know, on my days off on tour, I'd like to go to bookstores and I'll get an Uber and call and go alone. I like to be alone. We're fucking surrounded by people constantly, right? So, you know, so I go to bookstores or mom pop record stores I love to frequent, or mom pop music stores, you know, and try and find something cool to do out there to get away from the circus that is Godsmack on tour. And so one time Sully's like, oh, well, you know, what do you do? And a lot of times I'll just go to the mall if we're in, like, you know, Des Moines, Iowa or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll go to the mall, you know what I mean? And I am never recognized. It's just, I just am not. And so maybe it's because I look like this behind the drums. Or whatever it is, but I don't get recognized. And neither does Tony or Robbie. So it's a blessing, because Sully's like, yo, dude, so I'm going to go to the mall with you. I want to go to the mall tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. And so Sully Erna comes to the mall with me. And within 5 minutes, I start to notice shadows. People are following us, right? And by the time we made it to FYE or whatever, you know, we were doing a meet and greet. And I was like, yep, that's it. You're never coming to the mall with me again, dude. And so, you know, what it is, you know, I mean, I feel so grateful to be a drummer and to have the success and fame of this awesome band from Boston, Godsmack, you know. But I sure do love the anonymity of being a drummer and the way Godsmack's kind of stayed, you know, under the radar. Even though, you know, and since the new one, Bulletproof did come out and kind of hit, it was because of this video too that we did. That's real funny. It's our first funny video or whatever. And Sully ruled it.
Hilarious.
It's hilarious. He rules it with this character. He's a fucking funny dude in real life.
Well, first off, I saw it because Paul Geary sent it to me, and I'm like, wait, Paul Geary's in a video? and he's not holding any newspaper. So I'm like, okay, interesting. He's out of his character role, and
Get
he
Sebastian
comes in.
Bach in there, and
And you have Sebastian Bach and Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yeah. If you guys have not watched this video, go check it out. Godsmack.
Bulletproof. It's fucking
great.
Priceless. No, I mean, the song itself is awesome, but the video is like it. And then Sully just takes the cake as far as if there was any preconceived notions about what he could be like. Well, he shits all over people with this character in that video because it's hilarious.
It's fucking funny, and he's funny. He's a funny dude. But shit, forgot what I was going with that.
Oh, just flying under the radar. I mean, it is interesting. Yeah, the dichotomy.
You got some notoriety from it, is what you were saying.
Okay, so after that video, I don't know, got whatever million hits that they do or whatever. Now all of a sudden I go into Home Depot where I've always gone for the last 3 years and I can't not get recognized now. So I'm thinking, wow, the power of video and there it is. Now I can be recognized. And why? Because in all the other videos, there was no acting or standing around like this. You know, it was always movement and the drummer, you know, gets showed the least probably because he's a drummer and he's behind this giant thing anyway. But boy, when they were doling out the acting talent, I was like in the last in line or something. And I can tell, and Sully always wants me to act with him. We did another video one time, and I don't know if y'all saw this one, but Sully and I played like, Sully's actually a girl, pigtails and braces.
I don't think I saw that one.
No.
It's all.
What's it called?
It's on 1,000 horsepower.
I can't even remember the name of my own songs, dude. Come on, you're fucking with me.
Because now I can't remember like the video. Like we I think. Oh man, it was a promotional thing, maybe, I don't know. But I literally was dressed up with this blonde wig and all this shit. And Sully was a girl though, my sister in the video, and there was.
I remember Learning to Fly by the Foo Fighters, where Dave Grohl was a girl.
That's not the same band.
It's not the same. Oh, it's a different band. Okay, I'm sorry.
But it was a lot like that, honestly. We were all dressed up, and then we even did the thing on stage, a skit in which characters dressed up in our road crew and came out during that part of the song. And I just can't remember it. I'm sorry. But
was it I Want to Break Free?
Was that?
Oh, that was Queen did that too. That's right.
Something different, or What's Next?
Might have been Something Different. Yeah.
Something different.
We'll have to check that one out.
But I don't remember the video having that in it. But anyway, it might have been the song 1,000 Horsepower. No, I can't remember, y'all. Anyway,
you were a good actor was the point, I think.
That's the point. I can't act my way out of a wet paper bag. It's that simple. Thank God.
That's funny. We're coming up on the end of our first hour here, and I think we need to hear more.
Oh my, yeah. There's like so many things I haven't been able to ask you yet, like even pre-Godsmack era. But Ben, what do you want?
This is what we usually do. So like it's kind of like shock and awe. And then by the second hour, we're like on cruise control, and like we've all like dialed in the wavelength. We've made sure like it's the right era of Beatles playing in the background with our incense, and we kind of let you go.
Yeah, the Beatles pictures, and I made the frames myself. They're the pictures that came in the
nice.
I think the White Album reissue.
Yeah, guys, make sure you check out the YouTube video for this episode if you're not.
Put my Beatles on the wall. All right. Well, so listen, you've been 2020, but you guys stick around. Shannon, will you stick around and peak with us on the next one?
I will.
Here's the bottom line that I give anybody that asks. I tell them, it's like, if you don't absolutely love it more than anything in this world, don't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you have to, I mean, you have to go into it knowing that, man, I want to do this no matter what.
Yeah.
And if you don't know that, then you shouldn't do it. Go get a regular job, get a backup plan. You know, be one of those people that have a backup plan. I know a lot of people like that. It's like, you know, got a lot of friends that are living cushy lives because they had their backup plan and shit like that, but they can't play like I can play.
Right.